The money was literally about to go out the door. And then Republican elected officials and special interests stepped in. They said, no, no. Literally snatching from the hands of millions of Americans thousands of dollars in student debt relief that was about to change their lives. You know, these Republican officials just couldn't bear the thought of providing relief for working class, middle class Americans.
That was President Biden today criticizing not just the Supreme Court's decision to strike down his student loan debt forgiveness plan, but also calling out the Republicans who blocked millions of Americans from receiving that assistance. It was one of two more decisions from the conservative supermajority on the Supreme Court today, which further advanced extreme Republican interests that polling shows are unpopular with most Americans. Today, the Supreme Court also announced it would consider a case involving a federal law that prohibits people under domestic violence orders from possessing guns, paving the way for this court to expand gun rights even more than it did last year. But what we're seeing in painfully stark detail is the Republican vision for America shaped by a radical, out-of-step Supreme Court, restricting women's rights to control their own bodies, limiting unrepresented minority students to have a fair shot in the college admissions process, allowing business owners to discriminate against LGBTQ customers. No restrictions on gun rights whatsoever, despite an epidemic of gun violence. That's what a court filled with justices supercharged by a supermajority, courtesy of the last Republican president, has wrought. These are all policies that are wildly unpopular with voters. These are policies a Republican House could never see passed through the Senate or signed by President Biden. But when Republican presidents, supported by Republican voters, stack the court with activist judges, you don't need Congress or the White House to enact draconian policies. We also have states like Texas and Florida where Republicans are creating incubators for far-right extreme laws. Tomorrow, Florida's concealed carry law goes into effect. It's a law allowing people to legally carry a concealed firearm without a permit, without a background check, without safety training. What reasonable person thinks that's a good idea? Democrat Christine Hunchofsky represents Parkland in the Florida State House. She was the mayor of Parkland when a gunman massacred 17 people at Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School in 2018. She told the Sun Sentinel that this new law, quote, will not make our communities safer, adding, "This was never something anybody asked me for." Joining us now are two Democratic congressmen from the state of Florida, Congressman Maxwell Alejandro Frost and Congressman Jared Moskowitz. Both are members of the House Oversight Committee. Congressman, thank you for coming to The Last Word. Congressman Frost, starting with you, what did you think of President Biden's plan to counter the court's ruling canceling out student debt relief today?
Thank you so much for having us on. I think it's a great plan. And the president is showing, less than 24 hours after that decision came up, he addressed the nation. He talked about his plan B. We know the plan B will take some time. And then he had a plan C to the plan B to ensure that borrowers who still are going to have to start repaying in just a few months here are going to be protected. And we have to continue to push to ensure that the promise of the president in ensuring that we forgive the student debt is actually met and is actually done. And I'm proud that he's moving forward with that, and us in Congress, Democrats in Congress, will stand by him and ensure that we can do this. This is about racial justice. It's about economic justice, and there's a common misconception that this only impacts young people. That's not true. This impacts seniors, older folks, everybody. Tons of folks have student debt, and this is really going to help our economy, and really proud to be of the movement fighting to ensure that we do this.
Congressman Moskowitz, this is three bad decisions from the court in 2 days. How else can Democrats fight back if Republicans won't work with you?
Well, thanks, Jonathan. Well, I mean, look, at the end of the day, we, as you said in your earlier segment, we got to vote and we got to make people understand what the issues are when they go to vote. And the Supreme Court's got to be number one. I mean, in 1 year, Mitch McConnell's plan when he stole a Supreme Court seat, Donald Trump's plan when he rammed those justices through the Senate when they lied to the Senate of what they said was president. Their plan has come true. Donald Trump may have been a terrible president, But this is his legacy, that they've been able to undo decades and decades of rights and freedoms that people have earned in this country. And so we got to, and Maxwell Frost has worked on this, we've got to get young people out to vote. We got to make sure that we're communicating, that we're engaging people, that they understand what we're for, and they understand what's on the line.
You know, Congressman Frost, the court is taking up another case that could make it easier for domestic abusers to have guns. Talk to us about why voting is so important when you consider what this court is doing.
Well, because when we vote into presidents decide who fill these vacancies on the court. And what we're seeing, and you showed the graphic, how this court has been completely stacked by far right-wing judges who want to put through their ideology that is not just about being conservative. This is a very right-wing ideology and put it into law through the judiciary. It's extremely dangerous. This is one of the first times we've really seen the court work at actually taking away rights from people instead of protecting them. And this is part of the reason why we need people to vote, but why we also need to, assess our power now and use our power now to fight back against what's going on, whether it's LGBTQ plus rights or whether it's these gun laws, which we live in a country where we lose 100 lives a day due to gun violence. People want action on this. They don't want laws that are going to make it easier for people to take a gun, walk into a school, and mow down a ton of kids.
And on that point, Congressman Moskowitz, are you concerned that this permitless concealed carry law in your state will lead to more gun violence? What are your constituents saying to you about this?
Well, first, let me say, Jonathan, I'm less than a mile from Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School right now. I'm in the city of Parkland. That's where I live. I pass that high school every time I go home. And so, on the day after we saw the officer who didn't go into the building for 45 minutes, didn't let other officers go into the building, the good guy with the gun didn't go in to save any of those kids. This new law, this permitless carry law, which I call political carry, because at the end of the day, it was all about politics. We had a concealed weapons permit process in the state of Florida. It was working quite fine. There was no reason to change it. So this was just all about politics. I mean, here in the state of Florida, after Marjory Stoneman Douglas, we raised the age to buy any gun to 21. We instituted red flag laws that have been used 9,000 times since they put them in place. And we have 3-day waiting periods. And 5 years later, those laws are still working. And oh, by the way, there's no one chanting in the streets that their Second Amendment rights have been abridged. So it's unfortunate that they did this in the state legislature. It's not going to make kids safer. It's not going to make parents safer. It's going to make guns easier. They say the solution to the gun violence epidemic is more guns. Well, there's 400 million guns on the streets. How many more guns do we need until people are safe? So this is just straight up politics, and it's why we got to vote. We got to vote for people who understand that gun violence prevention is the issue of our generation. And
so, Congressman Frost, let me throw some statistics at you, and then the question will come after, because polling shows 77% of Florida voters oppose permitless concealed carry, including 62% of Republicans. So here's the question, the trick question. Why are Ron DeSantis and Florida Republicans passing these unpopular extremist policies?
Yeah, and here's the thing. Those numbers hold true across the entire nation, too. Most Republicans, most NRA members, that's my favorite one, are for universal background checks. So the question is this. If it's bipartisan for the entire country, how come it's not bipartisan in the halls of Congress? And that is when we have the conversation about corporate gun lobby money and influence in the halls of Congress and in the halls of the state legislature and Tallahassee. And Jared, said it right. It's all about politics. It's about a governor who's more concerned with running for president and being more right than Trump, so that way he can, be president instead of running the state. It's about politicians who value their reelection more than they value the lives of our children and our people. And by the way, I'll say this, when Jared was in the state legislature and he worked hard to pass that sweeping gun reform in this state, every Republican that voted for it, guess what? They were reelected. So it's a complete false notion that standing up and doing the right thing is going to end up, with you getting kicked out of office. But it's how the gun lobby scares politicians into submission. And it's why Floridians will die because of this law. I'm not being hyperbolic, and it's important that we keep that in mind in this time.
Congressman Frost invoked the name of Governor DeSantis, Congressman Moskowitz. So As you well know, Governor DeSantis took his anti-woke agenda to a group called Moms for Liberty, a nice name for a group pushing extremist policies. What does it say that DeSantis and other Republican presidential candidates are catering to extremists?
Well, listen, there's no doubt that Governor DeSantis has shown other Republican governors, other Republican candidates, that, you can bring back the social wars of the 90s and capitalize on it. I mean, even Donald Trump started going after Disney World a couple of weeks ago to try to match Governor DeSantis. And so there's no question that he is having an impact. What he did here in Florida, what the governor of Virginia did during his election in the education space is having an impact across the country. We're seeing Republicans, try to one-up each other and copycat each other. I mean, this idea of, going after books, going after, drag shows. I mean, I try to remind my Republican colleagues that, when parents, put their kids to bed at night and then they dress them for school in the morning and then they drop them off, the thing they're thinking about in the back of their mind is hopefully they get to pick their kid up. They're not thinking about some drag show. Dead kids can't read. And so, at the end of the day, we have to get parents refocused on what really matters for their kids in this country.